All right, today I wanted to tackle the topic of finishing creative ideas and what do you actually need in order to accomplish them. If you're a person that wants to make a short film and you have never done your first film, you might be willing to do your best work. So you might be procrastinating on actually executing anything. And at this point, maybe you've been sitting on your idea for a while, but the environment is not the best right now. I'm going to give you a solution for this. And what it is the horrible, scary word, and it's deadline. And deadlines always sound awful because suddenly your creative work is being brought to work office environment and it feels like you don't want to do that. I want to give you my example of how it helped me with my production and how it pushed everything forward. In February, I decided to make this short little series on Instagram of 30-day challenge to the production of my film to see if I could produce the whole movie script that I already had, luckily, but was still preparing everything for the production days within 30 days. Spoiler alert, I didn't follow through with the videos themselves, but I did accomplish the challenge itself and I made the film. What made it very magical was the fact that on the first day of my challenge, I decided that I'm going to set the date for the production of the film. And these are going to be the sacred days that, filming is happening. Everything has to be ready by then. It's not about post, but it's mostly about the production itself. I've been wanting to make this film for a long time, and I think I maybe postponed it for over a year or something. So believe me that before I even tackled the 30-day challenge, I was already contemplating maybe putting it like a few months in advance because I felt like I had too many obligations at work and stuff, and I didn't really want to tackle that big of a project. But then I realized that if I don't set the date right now, there will always be something that's going to come up. Like, life is always busy at the end of the day. I thought worst case scenario, I'm going to set that date, and then if I fail, that's totally fine. Something magical happened when I shared on Instagram, because the moment that happened, I got really excited for the project. And instead of worrying if it's good enough, I moved very quickly towards that problem solving part of my head, where even listening to feedback from other people regarding my script suddenly felt like, is this valid or is it not valid? Am I going to use this or not? If not, then I'm just going to move on and I'm going to do it my way. I was able to move towards the executive part of me versus just dwelling in the creative, mystical, all that kind of thing. And the moment when I had the date, I was able to ask other people if they want to help me or not. I went on the internet, I went on Backstage, and I started messaging people if they want to help me produce it. And then, I started thinking about, maybe I can start casting people and stuff. Because if you have the date, you can tell people when to show up. And it's 20 times easier than coming up to your buddy and just saying, hey, do you want to come and help me with my film at some point? They'll be like, yeah, whatever. But when is it? I'm still thinking about it. So that never happens again. You just basically tell them, show up on that day, and then bam, they are locked in. And not only they're going to show up, now you have even more responsibility to finish your project and to actually be on that day ready. So everything starts moving forward. And I was not working on my film for like 10 hours a day type of regime. I actually worked probably like half an hour to an hour every single day, just chipping away, because surprisingly, I realized that a lot of things you can do within an hour. For example, like, you're going to email some actors, you're going to different locations that you might want to book or whatever it is. At the end of the day, it will still require some sort of email form of communication, and then you have to wait for response. So you can bang it out in 45 minutes, feel incredibly productive because you move the needle forward, and, chill for the rest of the day. And you have that positive approach to everything that the next day when you have to do something, suddenly like, okay, you already have something at your table, you check the emails, then you move on to the next thing and you start tackling and chipping away a to-do list almost that it's writing itself. Making films is hard work, but it's not grueling type of hard work. It's actually not hard. I think it's just complex. Often when I see videos about pre-production, they just kind of put me off. And I never wanted to produce a film by myself. I always wanted to have someone do it for me, and then I would come and direct and shoot it. And, I wanted the easy way in. But it turns out that producing a film is actually very satisfying, especially when you start breaking it down into tiny things that you have to solve, instead of thinking, I have to get this and I have to get this massive budget and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but I just want to say that the stuff that is going to start coming up for you within the pre-production of the film, it's just tiny tasks for a bit longer time, but they are really small. Like, you ask people if you can use their location. Okay, you're going to have to do it 20 times most likely, but it's still just an email. Just send 20 times. Coming back to my main point, which is the deadline, is it allows you to shift towards that perspective of just, okay, I'm going to have to sort it out and I cannot overthink it anymore. And even if your script is not ready, you will be working on your script and up until that day of your deadline and, till the day of the production, let's say, but it's going to be a completely different thing because you're going to start fixing it in most likely quickest way possible instead of the craziest profound way. And that's one thing. But second, serendipitous things are going to start coming your way. I started, looking for a cast, and my story just had like 4 characters, and surprisingly, all 4 characters were males. I know there's nothing wrong with that, but I wasn't necessarily going for like a crazy diverse cast. It was just one single situation type of film, so there was not really much opportunity there. Anyway, why am I even explaining this? That's the world we live in. Anyway, I had the crazy choice of 4 male characters, and I couldn't find a single one. And I remembered that a few months before, I worked on this short film with this one lady, Aniela. She had this awesome villain-like dark energy that she was able to channel. She was a lovely person, but when she knew how to act the dark character as well. So I thought, I'm just going to reach out to her now, see if she likes the script, and maybe she would be willing to take the role of this like mafia torturer boss. Luckily, she liked the script. And then I already had an idea of what she could do, so I started rewriting the script for her. She wasn't a main character, but still I wanted to make that whole situation about her, and it brought so many awesome details that, okay, little spoiler, for example, like torturer, a man could be like, brutal with the vicious force and that kind of stuff. But the lady who's a torturer, suddenly there's so many different subtleties that you have to bring. There's going to be different instruments that person is going to use. So everything just kind of changed, and I loved that idea. So it pushed me even more forward because now I started getting excited about, this scene is going to work. So this is awesome. Then I reached out to her asking if she knows any other actors. So she recommended me her friend. Then that friend recommended me another friend. So I suddenly had a whole cast within a couple days of awesome people that knew each other. And that would never happen if I didn't have the date to ask them, hey, can you come and do it on that day? I don't want to extend it for too long, but I just wanted to share with you, if you're struggling with kicking things off the ground with your creative project, set up a deadline and maybe make it public in one way or another, or have someone that holds you accountable to it. Put that deadline down, save it in your calendar, and just work until then. Important part. Once you set that deadline, don't you dare moving it. There's no way out of it. Like, if you set that deadline, the film happens. Whether it's going to be a terrible film or it's going to be an amazing film, or whatever project you're making. If you're writing a song or you want to release it, that day is going to get released. Whatever your deadline is, it has to be done. Because you have to go through the motion of going on a compromise, of running out of time. You will always need more time. And additionally, you might be working with one friend that tells you they cannot do that day. That means, I'm sorry, they cannot do that day. They won't be working on that day with you. You can ask them if they have alternative. Maybe they can show up on one day out of 4, whatever it is. But at the same time, you don't move that date because of one of your friends wants to be there and you're doing it for them. You're not doing it for them. And allow the world to bring you a new person that's going to fulfill the task force that you need. And it's going to be a completely different experience than you imagined initially, but this is the part of the process, and it has to be done this way. It's the best, because you will never allow for happy accidents happen if you want things only to play out the way you intended initially. There's way more magic to the creative process that happens the moment when you allow the process to roll versus just imagining it how it has to happen and holding it in that rigid form. So the deadline is not a rigid form. The deadline is the part that allows you to experience the most random things that are going to happen. Let it happen and enjoy it. Anyway, that's everything from me today. Once again, set the deadline. Thank you very much for watching, and subscribe if you enjoyed that video. Thank you. All the best. Ciao. Bye-bye.